In this case, we are going to learn how to debug a sample web application in WebLogic server using Intellij IDEA Community Edition. So in order to do that, first we need one sample web application. We will download that first. We will start the WebLogic server, deploy the web application over there, and then we will try to debug the same web application from Intellij IDEA. Now, in order to download the web application, the first thing you need to do is to go to github.com/j2expert2015/simple-web-app. Here, I have a Maven-based simple web application. So let me download the code first. Click over here, click on download zip. The download is completed over here. Let me go here, extract this. Click on extract here. Now, this is the folder where my project code is available. I'm going to rename this as it is showing this branch extension -master. Click on rename, remove this master part. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a war file from it. So if I go here, inside this I have the source and the POM file. Let me copy the location. Let me open a command line window. I'm going to use conemu here, cd Ctrl V. Now I'm going to type maven clean install. Now what will happen? Maven will create a war file over here. As you can see this message, this war file is built and it is placed here under the target directory, the simple web app.war. Now we need to start the WebLogic server, and before that we need to configure the server so that the debugging works. Let me go to the WebLogic installation location first. Now this is the location where my WebLogic server is installed. This is the oracle_home, and under that there are different directories. We need to go inside user_project domains, and here under domains you would be having your own domain. It could be base_domain or basic_domain. It would be a custom name. It depends how you configure. Here I have configured this domain name as sample_domain. Now I'm going inside this, inside bin directory. So in order to run the WebLogic server in debug mode, the thing that we need to do is customize the setdomain.env.cmd or setdomain.env.sh for Linux. This CMD would be useful for Windows only. Let me open this file in an editor. Right click, edit with Notepad++. Now this is the content of this setdomain.env.cmd file. If I scroll down, you can see different things are mentioned there. So what you can do over here, you can just search with this debug flag. This debug flag is something which tells the WebLogic server to run in debug mode or not. Now if I search here another time, you can see if debug flag is true, then it is setting this local debug equal to true. Now let me search with this local debug. You can see over here, if the local debug is true, then it is setting these parameters. And here if you see, it is setting this typical Java debugging related configurations like -x debug, x no agent, x run jdwp, transport equal to dt_socket, and address equal to debug_port. Now by default, what is the value of this debug_port? Let me search, go to the beginning of the file, Ctrl F. So if you see over here, by default this debug port is 8453. So if we run the server in debug mode, by default it would take this particular port, that is 8453. Now I'm not going to use that port, I'm going to customize this one. You can use the default port. Now what I need to do over here, the basic step would be go to the beginning of the file. Now what are the steps that I need to do? I need to set the debug flag as true. That would be my first step. Once that is done, if I want to customize the debug port, what I can do, I can tell set debug port equal to the port that I want to use. So I am setting this as 8000. You can skip this part, you can use the default port as well, but in this case I am just customizing it. Now I am going to run this particular server. So this is the location, Ctrl C. Let me go to my command line editor, open a new window, right click, new console dialog, start. Let's go inside the WebLogic directory, cd the location. Now let us run the command start weblogic.cmd. Now the server is running and it's listening at this particular port 8000. You can see listening for transport dt_socket at 8000. The server state changed to running. Now let me go to the administration, the console administration page of WebLogic. So the URL is localhost :7001/console. Before that, you need to add https://. So this is my WebLogic server administration console. I'm going to enter my credentials. Press enter. Now, if I go back to the location where my WAR file was, so this is the location. Here I have this sample WAR file. What I'm going to do, I'm going to place it in a particular folder. I can keep it here also. So if I go back to the browser, okay, the login is done. Let me discard this one. I'm going to place this in a particular location as I told you. So I'm going to this particular directory, all softwares, and here I'm placing this WAR file. Let me go back to the browser. Click on deployments. Here click on install. Now I need to provide the path where my WAR file is present. Let me copy this. Ctrl C. Press enter. So under all softwares, I have this following files. It has identified that this is a WAR file which is a candidate for deployment. So this is the file which I want to deploy. So select this simple web app. If I go back to the all_softwares, this is the simple web app.war. Go back to the browser, click next. So there are two options: install this deployment as an application or install this deployment as a library. Just click next, keep the default, next again, click finish. Go to this control tab, select this checkbox and click this drop down under start. Select service, select servicing all requests. Now the web application is running inside the WebLogic server in debug mode. So what is the next step? We need to set up Intellij IDEA with the source code and we have to debug this one. So let me open Intellij IDEA first. I'm opening the Intellij IDEA Community Edition. In the meantime, let me go to the code where I have downloaded it. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to cut this particular directory and place it in a particular location. Right click, paste. So this is where my sample code is. This is the Maven project that we are going to import in the Intellij IDEA. Let me see. Now I have gone to Intellij IDEA. What I need to do, I need to open a project from here. Click on open and I need to provide a location. So this is the location. This is the project. Click OK. Now Intellij is scanning the project. It would identify that it is a Maven based project. Wait for a while to complete the scanning. It's resolving all the dependencies. Close this one. Okay. Now as the project is imported, let me see the project structure over here. Here under Java, I have two Java classes, basically servlets, and here under web app, I have some sample pages. Let me open a class. So this is the login servlet. So I want to check one thing. What is the JDK that is being used? I need to go to File, Project Structure, and here it is showing the SDK. In your case, if it is not shown, you can edit this one. I'm going to edit this one and I'm going to use my local JDK. So I'm clicking edit. Here it has already identified this particular JDK location, so I don't need to change. In your case, you may need to change it. So click on cancel. So this is the file that I am going to debug. Now here, in order to perform the debugging, what we need to do, we need to go to run, go to edit configurations, click on this plus icon, select this remote JVM debug. Now I am going to provide a name, WebLogic debug. This debugger mode would be attached to remote JVM, transport would be socket, host as it is local, it would be localhost, port here as I have configured as 8000, let me change this to 8000. Now here if you see under this drop downs there are multiple options. If it is JDK 9 or later, you would be selecting this one. If it is JDK 8 meaning 5 to 8, you can select this one. Accordingly this would change. So click on apply and then OK. So this is the file that I'm going to debug. This is the method. What I'm going to do, I'm going to place a breakpoint over here at line number 23 and run this program in debug mode. So once it is run, you can see connected to the target VM address localhost colon 8000 transport socket, meaning the debugging has started. What we need to do, we need to run the application, pass certain parameters so the breakpoint gets hit. Let me go back to the browser. So this is my application. If I click on the testing, here I have a sample URL which I can open. So right click. This is my page. Let me click on login. So if I enter the values and click on submit, the control would flow to the login servlet. Let me provide some values. I'm passing admin both as user ID and password. Click submit. Now you can see this icon is blinking. If I go back to Intellij idea now, the breakpoint is hit, and if you see the value of this particular variable user ID over here under this variable pane, you can see the value is passed. Now if I just click on resume so that the flow passes by, you can see the response is coming here, welcome admin. So what we have done, we have downloaded the code, we have set up the WebLogic server in debug mode, and we have set up the code in Intellij IDEA, and we are able to debug the application running inside WebLogic server from the IDE Intellij IDEA.